Good evening and welcome. As some of you might know, a colleague of mine should give this speech. Unfortunately, he was not able to attend. So I'm not Thorsten, I'm Robert. I gladly took over, and I'm very delighted to be here on the stage at the very incredible CloudFest. So my name is Robert Houska. I'm product manager for OCI. OCI is what we call Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. It's, of course, the best cloud infrastructure for running Oracle workloads. As you all know, databases, some PaaS services, so Java Web Services, WebLogic, and so on, and some SaaS services, such as ERP and HCM and so on, for enterprise customers. In the next 15 minutes or so, I'm very happy to share some of my thoughts, some observations, talking to a lot of enterprise customers in the past, I think over the last 10 years, talking about the real costs of cloud and talking about build your own cloud, especially for MSPs, what we call the managed service provider. I started my cloud career more than 10 years ago at a large company in Switzerland, start to writing a cloud strategy. Of course, it was not an all-in cloud strategy as we have with all enterprise customers today. It was more or less a step-by-step approach to get in touch with infrastructure as a service, mainly Amazon at this time. After then, I was CTO at Huawei. This was a colleague of mine, so in earlier times. And I talked to a lot of carriers, telcos, talking about ETSI standards. They struggled a lot with cloud solutions, with telco cloud solutions. And I was CTO of Swiss Railways, Schweizer Bundesbahnen, and I had the chance to develop a lot of cloud solutions. We called them enterprise virtualization environments based on the VMware suite and some tools. And later with OpenStack and Cloud Foundry, and more later containerized solutions based on Warden, Docker, Kubernetes, and OpenShift and such technologies. And what I've learned in the last 10 years is that every enterprise customer is struggling with utilizing his workload on the public cloud. So they still have some concerns, security concerns. They faced lags and gaps for compliance and regulations. We had a lot of discussions about shared infrastructure in general and about operational processes and organization. So they struggled a lot. They're complaining a lot, utilizing their workload in public cloud environments. And then I heard something about OCI. A former colleague of mine called me and said, "Hey Rob, there's something new on the market. It's called OCI. It's Oracle Cloud Infrastructure." And I told him, "Oh no, it's Oracle. It's not flexible. It's a huge company, very huge hierarchical organization, and very arrogant, and so on. So I don't know." And he said, "Yes, probably they built something new. It's called OCI Generation 2. And it should solve every issue you're faced with your enterprise customer over the last years. So give it a try." And I gave it a try 1.5 years ago. And hopefully it's not my last attempt to build enterprise-grade and major cloud solutions. But I'm now with Oracle, developing and promoting the OCI, so the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. When I started at Oracle, I was really surprised. What they have done, they hired a bunch of people, a lot of experienced colleagues, engineers from Amazon and from Azure. Now they are based in Seattle and Redmond in US. And the basic idea was just to take all the advantages, you can see on the left side, from the first generation cloud, and rebuild and enrich all these features, the well-known capabilities, with the unmet demand of enterprise customers. So the idea was to build a true enterprise cloud. You all know the advantages of of the cloud, of the public cloud in general. That's pay what you use, so you only pay for what you get. That's of course some technical aspects like the elasticity and the scalability. Elasticity for horizontal scaling, mainly for cloud native applications. The vertical scaling, so scale up, down, burst more CPU if needed, more or less for the legacy applications. And of course, some self-service and self-management. This was quite new for enterprise customers. This was really new for them, and they struggled with self-service a lot. So they have to take care about the fulfillment process, the order management and so on, up to deployment, leveraging some automation tools, orchestration tools, up to the billing and reports and SLA management and so on. So they had to do a lot more than they have done before. Within the second generation cloud, as I mentioned, this was the basic idea. We tried, and not only Oracle, a few other public cloud providers as well, tried to solve the unmet demand in terms of uncompromised security. So security and compliance is now key for enterprise customers. Then predictable performance. Performance was always an afterthought, really a nightmare for enterprise customers. It was not predictable. Just to say, okay, what's the bandwidth? What's the latency on the network? How much CPU is real? How much is the ratio between the virtual CPU and the physical CPU? It was really not predictable. And of course, no hidden costs, no hidden fees for some services. So you subscribe to some services, and then our other services, especially the operational services such as monitoring, logging, health management, alarming, event management, incident management are missing. You can purchase them, you can subscribe to those services, but for extra costs. And of course, as I'm working with Oracle, I have to mention the high-scale database workloads. In the common public cloud, it's not easy to get high-performant databases, and in OCI, of course, you get them. So the question is, what have we done at OCI, at Oracle, to solve all these issues and to provide a second generation cloud? And please, it's not only Oracle. A few other public cloud providers have the same ideas. The positive thing is we started quite late, so 3 years ago with OCI. That's late, but on the other side, because we were late, we had the choice, we had the chance to use cutting-edge technologies. So we started from the network. That sounds strange, starting from the network. The network is key for enterprise customers with the legacy workload. Enterprise customers are used to have various network segments in different trust levels, segregation of networks with some private IP ranges, some public IP ranges, and then between those ranges they have usually some stateful inspection filters or distributed denial of service prevention filters in place. So they do care a lot about the network. And usually common public providers are very prescriptive. So they force the application to fit into the network. You start to configure the application and probably have some IPs or a second IP, and most probably you have some network segments. But you are not able to configure it as it was in your old on-prem network. So very difficult to establish kind of DMZ zones and so on. And we started from the network, and I want to mention two topics which are important for me on the network, which should show our strength on the network. First, we designed a very flat, non-oversubscribed network based on a Coles design. Coles design is very old. It's more than 25 years old. Some of you might know it. Some of you might remember the plain old telephone system designs, so the POTS designs, which are point-to-point connection between two nodes. This has some advantages. This kind of multi-stage circuit switching network, you need a lot of investments, of course, but it had some benefits as well. Security. If you have point-to-point connections, exploits for man-in-the-middle attacks are not really likely. So there are no noisy neighbors sniffing the network traffic. Of of course on the switch as well, but not on the line. So that's security. And because of the point-to-point connections, in most of the cases, you don't have a need for line encryption anymore, which takes your performance and so on. Because there are no noisy neighbors. There are no men in the middle in between these point-to-point connections. The other thing is performance. If you have point-to-point connection between two nodes, 25 gigabit per second between those nodes are real 25 gigabits per second, or 50 between those nodes. There's no shared network. It's a point-to-point connection. So security and performance. That was what our enterprise customers needed. Secondly, we called it the off-box virtualization. Sounds strange. But what we have done is leveraging so-called smart NICs. Smart NICs are network interface cards, doing all the things usually done by control planes, or the routing and the encryption and security lists and so on. But on the smart NIC, you have a separated CPU, which is in charge for virtualization of the network and the storage communication and the encryption. So what you have done, you have separated the network and storage virtualization from the compute. And what you have here, two things. Security. We are not running any software, our software, on the compute node. We only run software on the smart NIC, which is off the server. So that's good for customers. They know what is running on the server. And secondly, it's performance. When you have the network virtualization and storage virtualization off the server, not in the hypervisor included, but really separated, one virtual CPU is really one physical CPU. That's not a ratio 1.5 or double the amount of virtual CPUs leveraging the physical CPUs. It's really one by one. So you really got what you pay for. And it's highly predictable on the network and on compute. That's great. That's what our enterprise customers needed. And we're not the only one dealing with smart NICs, just to mention Azure, for instance. So what I've seen in the past years was that every enterprise customer now has an all-in cloud strategy, cloud-first strategy, starting with SaaS, PaaS, and infrastructure as a service. What they have done, they took the applications, the workload, lifted it and shifted it to the public cloud. And yeah, with the same organization, with the same process, with the same methods, with the same operational tools in place. And then the managers of the enterprise customer complained a lot and told me, hey, that's not fair. It's now more expensive than before. Yeah, we always told cloud is cheaper. I'm not talking about financial engineering and CapEx and OpEx. I really talk about operational costs, TCO. And they complained and said, it's not cheaper. It's more expensive than before. And that's no surprise, of course. If you do it exactly the same way, with exactly the same organization and FTEs, with the same tools, with the same services, integration in your environment, and you have additional costs managing your provider, and in most of the cases, multiple providers, you have higher operational costs. So what you have to do is really to move it and to improve it, to reduce operational processes, to adapt the new operational models and the new delivery models. You have to keep services in mind. If you subscribe to services, most of them are really holistic services. Monitoring, logging, and so on is already included. Why to integrate it to your existing monitoring tools? You double your costs. So improve it without rebuilding your applications, which is really difficult for legacy applications. Secondly, if you build new applications, of course, you do it the cloud-native way, 12-factor apps and so on, fully separated as a startup or digital twin within your organization, so no need to integrate it. There you can reduce the costs. But that's not valid, again, for legacy applications. And third point, very important point, most of the enterprise customers do have a multi-cloud strategy. That's really a good idea because the cloud providers are not able to manage all workloads. Oracle is the best provider to manage databases. So for sure. We can manage the databases, but we can't manage various workloads, highly tailored or customized workload of the customer. We're not able to do this. We're not a managed service provider. We're a cloud provider. And it's very similar to Amazon and to Azure and to Google. Google might be the best provider for analytics, to manage analytics, or some containerized solutions. Azure is probably the best provider, not only cloud provider, but managed service provider for manage Microsoft workload. So most of the enterprise customers do have a multi-cloud strategy. That's good. And now they have multiple provider management efforts, which are costs. So please, for enterprise customer, there's no competition between the public cloud provider and the service provider. The public cloud provider provides infrastructure, and on top, the managed service providers manage the services on top of this infrastructure. MSPs, managed service provider, are really able to manage various workloads of enterprise customer. They're legacy applications. They're highly tailored, they're customized, and managed service providers often run their own CMP, cloud management platform, or call it CloudOS, on top of the infrastructure, with all interfaces and interoperability issues already solved to the enterprise customers' ITSM tools and monitoring tools and so on. So it's not, again, it's not a competition of public cloud provider and managed service provider. It's a collaboration between them. We as Oracle do everything to make it easy for MSPs to provide managed services for their enterprise customers. That's really of importance for us. Enterprise customers and MSPs are different. They're very different to developers. Developers, when we talk about cloud native applications, they don't care about the network. They don't care about security. They say, yes, my application runs on different cloud providers and so on, and spin up, spin down, and I can scale it in an elasticity way and so on. They don't care. Enterprise customers and MSPs do care a lot about the network and the security. We provide as Oracle cloud infrastructure. That's not really a cloud, that's infrastructure for cloud. So MSPs are able to build their own cloud, given their CMPs, given their orchestration tools and CloudOS on top of our cloud, managing services for enterprise customers. So as you can see, it's really about enterprise cloud. And I strongly believe Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is a true enterprise cloud. Just to mention three things, and to remind three things. To sum it up, enterprise customers do care about security and compliance. On the network level, most of the security controls and measurements are done on the network level, not on the application tier, for legacy applications, of course. So that's really of importance. We do need a lot of capabilities on the network level, just to fulfill all the security topics, issues, and to solve their concerns. Secondly is performance. Performance is key. Predictable performance is key. Enterprise customers' legacy applications need to know how much bandwidth is available exactly. They need to know that there is really low latency, given point-to-point connections, for instance, and dark fiber connections to the data center, of course. All those services should be an essential part of the services. Should be no extra services with extra costs where you have vast discussions within the organization if they are needed or not. So security services are an essential part of the services. Should be a holistic service. Performance is key. And thirdly, as I mentioned, the environment, the cloud infrastructure, should be highly customizable, given the needs of enterprise customers. They do need a high customizable infrastructure underneath. Standardization is perfect, but enterprise customers, for them, that's an issue. So MSPs runs various legacy workloads with different tenants, different organizations. So the three takeaways here. For me, as a product manager of OCI, I'm in charge of building and launching new regions. And I want to give you an idea about the global footprint of Oracle data centers by the end of 2019. Just to show that network presence is really important for us as well, given the high bandwidth and the low latency, and of course some security regulations as well. We're launching a new data center in Switzerland, late autumn this year. I'm in charge of this. If you have demand or any questions about this, please don't hesitate to contact me with regards to the region launch in Zurich. So, thanks. Thanks for attending. Thanks for joining, even when it's late. If you want to get some hands-on or some technical details or further discussions, please come to our booth or try it online, cloudoracle.com/try it. And otherwise, I wish you a nice evening and a dinner or apéro riche at the event later. Thanks.